Welcome back, friends. You are listening to the Juicebox Podcast.
I am Chelsea Morgan, the International Women of Service Sweetheart for 2024, Derek's mom, and also the owner of my own small business and a nonprofit of Derek's Defenders.
The podcast contains so many different series and collections of information that it can be difficult to find them in your traditional podcast app sometimes. That's why they're also collected at juiceboxpodcast.com. Go up to the top. There's a menu right there. Click on Series, Defining Diabetes, Bold Beginnings, the Pro Tip Series, Small Sips, Omnipod 5, Ask Scott and Jenny, Mental Wellness, Fat and Protein, Defining Thyroid, After Dark, Diabetes Variables, Grand Rounds, Cold Wind, Pregnancy, Type 2 Diabetes, GLP Meds, The Math Behind Diabetes, Diabetes Myths, and so much more. You have to go check it out. It's all there and waiting for you, and it's absolutely free. juiceboxpodcast.com. Nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by the twiist AID system powered by Tidepool that features the twiist loop algorithm, which you can target to a glucose level as low as 87. Learn more at twiist.com/juicebox. That's twist with two eyes.com/juicebox. Get precision insulin delivery with a target range that you choose at twiist.com/juicebox. That's TWIIST.com/juicebox. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by US Med. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. Get your supplies the same way we do from US Med. Today's episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by the Eversense 365, the 1-year wear CGM. That's one insertion a year. That's it. And here's a little bonus for you. How about there's no limit on how many friends and family you can share your data with the Eversense Now app. No limits. Eversense.
I am Chelsea Morgan, the International Women of Service Sweetheart for 2024, Derek's mom, and also the owner of my own small business and a nonprofit of Derek's Defenders.
Wow. Okay, hold on a second. How old are you?
I am 30 this year. I just turned 30 in January.
I'm almost twice as old as you, and I haven't done that many things in the whole time I've been alive. So let's figure some things out. Do you have type 1 or does a child?
My son, Derek.
Derek does. How old was Derek when he was diagnosed?
He was 4 years old.
How old is he now?
7.5.
Okay, about 3.5 years. Any other kids?
I do. I have a 6-year-old now. He just turned 6 in January as well.
Awesome. Any other autoimmune in the family?
I have Hashimoto's, but that's it. My husband's side is very clean when it comes to their health.
Is that how they put it? We're clean over here?
I put it that way because I have a lot of issues, mental health, physical health, and my whole family has always had some issues, but Ryan, never. He only went to the hospital one time his entire life.
For what?
He broke his collarbone snowboarding one year.
Baby.
And that was when he was dating me. So I make the joke that I did it to him.
Yeah. You'd never been to the hospital till you met Morgan.
Right.
Chelsea Morgan gets people to the hospital.
My catchphrase. I'm so going to tell him that when he comes home.
Don't you worry. Let's go meet some other people and see if we can't get them sick. What do you mean you have other stuff going on?
I actually have borderline personality disorder. And so that's been a long struggle, my adult life coming into that diagnosis and learning how to deal with it. But I also have had a total of 8 surgeries, which a lot of times I have more surgeries than adults who are twice my age. And it's not just from, my appendix. I did have my appendix or my wisdom teeth. I've had knee surgery. I've had 2 shoulder reconstructions. I run the gamut.
Interesting. Go through your surgeries with me very quickly. I'm going to see if I can keep up. I'm going to try to keep up. Ready? Go ahead.
Sure. In 9th grade, I had my appendix removed. In 12th grade, I had.
Wait, Chelsea, hold on. Let's a second. I think we got a game here. Let me just clear off a little space. Go. You say you got appendix?
Mm-hmm.
I got appendix. Go ahead. What's next?
Wisdom teeth in 12th grade. Oh, wait, hold on. Nope. Meniscal repair in 10th grade.
Where's that?
One.
In your knee?
Yes.
All right. I haven't had a meniscus repair, but I've had my knee repaired. Go ahead.
Okay. Then I had both wisdom teeth removed, or all wisdom teeth removed. I guess it's 4.
I've had mine removed, but not during surgery, but we're still going to check it. 3 for 3. Go ahead.
I had 3 C-sections. Well, 1 D&C and 2 C-sections.
Oh, I think you got me on this one. I do not have that. Go ahead.
And I've had both of my shoulders repaired or reconstructed.
I've had my right shoulder repaired.
Not your left yet?
Well, I got to be honest with you. There's days when I think maybe I ought to go get that looked at, but not yet. But I have had my toe repaired. You have your toe repaired?
I haven't had a toe done.
Oh,
You can take that win.
Okay. How about an ankle? To ever tear an ankle up and have to have surgery on it?
Nope, not that one either.
Oh, Scotty's pulling ahead. Carpal tunnel syndrome?
I do have carpal tunnel, but I've not had surgery for it yet.
Oh, baby. I have. Okay. Now let's see. Hold on one second. I want to be fair about the carpal tunnel. I had carpal tunnel surgery, but I didn't have carpal tunnel syndrome. As I look down at my left hand, putting my thumb top my finger, so I'm like looking down my hand kind of the thin way, there is a scar that goes from between the second and third knuckle of my thumb almost to my wrist that
Oh my goodness.
I opened my hand up with a box cutter, not on purpose.
Well, no.
And it left a lot of damage inside and tightness that was released by carpal tunnel surgery.
Oh, well, that stinks because I've heard how painful carpal tunnel surgery can be, though.
I watched it on the monitor. I only had I had a local block. They blocked me from my shoulder down. And I realized, I was like, what's that for? And they said, oh, we do a lot of the surgery on the monitor. I was like, oh, can I say it? And the guy was like, seriously? I'm like, yeah. So he turned it towards me and I watched the surgery. It's pretty cool. I just had a double deviation fixed in my nose. I had broken cartilage, double deviation, and some other stuff from a fall when I was younger. I couldn't breathe anymore. And now I can breathe like a baby. It's awesome. Okay.
I'm going to be so weird. Have you seen the Facebook ads for the Breathe Right strip that is like metal and it opens the nose? All I can think is that you took that first deep breath and was like, this is what breathing is? Oh, that's amazing. I don't know how to handle this right now.
Chelsea, I want to tell you something. It was so bad over the last couple of years, right? So I couldn't sing in the car anymore. I'd get out of breath. I'd get like, oh God, I'm not okay out of breath. The editor of the podcast was having to, every time I'd finish speaking, he'd have to edit out where I would go afterwards because I hold my breath when I'm speaking usually. So like, think of, if you really listen to the podcast, think about that. I go off for a minute or so, not breathing. Yeah. It's not even fully healed yet. And it's 1,000 times better than it was. I'm still obstructed from the natural process of the healing, and it's already amazing. I did have that feeling though, when it was not just when it was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. But prior to the surgery, I actually said to a couple of people, the surgeon being one of them, genuinely, sincerely embarrassed. But I said, how do people breathe? And the guy looks at me real strange. And I was like, like air comes in and it goes out. Where does it go in? Where does it go out? And he goes, your nose? And I said, people breathe in and out through their nose?
Oh, no.
And he looked at me so sad. I was like, and I think at first he thought, like, is this guy I'm like, that's how people breathe? I was like, that's awesome. Do you think I'll just naturally do it or will I have to teach myself?
Well, what was it? Did you have to teach yourself?
I find myself doing it without thinking about it, which I find very encouraging in the first 2 weeks.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, I didn't realize that people, I guess everybody could like insert their mouth breather jokes here if they want to, but I did not realize that people inhaled and exhaled through their nose. I thought it was one or the other, and I just didn't know which it was.
I have a weird thing about my face because I have TMJ, so I scrunch my face really hard. If I'm petting a dog, I can start crying because my face starts to hurt so bad from grinding my teeth just petting a dog.
Oh my
it's
gosh.
Like one of those things that is like, how do people just sit here and pet their dog without doing that? I totally understand what you're saying. And I know that's a weird thing to say, but it's something I think about too.
Not at all. Okay. So now the other part, what'd you say? Borderline personality? When does that get diagnosed?
I was diagnosed with that. I believe I was 23 or I might have just turned 24. I'm sure many people say, I'm acting bipolar with the mood swings, but bipolar has more of the mood swings that take longer time frames. So you're going to be happy for a few months, maybe even for a few years. It's not the automatic swing within hours.
Mhm.
For me, I can go from 0 to 100 and then right back down to 0 again. That was a learned process. I did extensive outpatient therapy for over 6 months of 4 days a week, 3 hours, 4 hours a day. Sorry. Just learned how to be, I'm going to say normal, air quote, normal. I have these emotions that are really big and they come out not always at the best time, but I've grown. I've grown in the last 6 years so much from that, and continuing therapy, my medication cycle, all of those kinds of things.
What's the medical understanding of how that happens?
I don't know that I've done a whole lot of research into the why, because it's like bipolar where you get diagnosed as an adult. It can be a chemical imbalance. I do know that. I still struggle, even though I'm on really great meds, and I do have really good days. I have more good days than I have bad days now.
Awesome.
But I do know that a lot of it can be environmentally impacted. So depending on your family, how you were raised, if you come from an impoverished area, I'm not saying that I did, but a lot of trauma. I did have a lot of trauma growing up, and that spurred me into not knowing how to handle my emotions. And I think a lot of that caused me to need to grow and learn how to have healthy emotions, which wasn't something I was always good at.
Would you be comfortable sharing what some of those traumas were?
My parents divorced when I was very young, but my dad lived in Maine while my mom lived in Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And as a single mom, my mom's life wasn't always easy. She was also in the military, but Army National Guard. So full time. We moved around a whole lot. That makes it hard. I didn't know how to maintain relationships with people from a lot of those things. And this is growth. I have talked to my mom about a lot of this. So that's why I'm comfortable talking about it.
Okay.
And then my stepdad was deployed when I was 16, and he was a big rock in my life. And it wasn't so solid when he came home. Things were tumultuous because it was Afghanistan, and that is what it is. And then myself, I joined the Army straight out of high school because they always said, and I love them for it because they wanted me to have goals. They said I had 3 options. I could go to school full time and not pay rent. I could work full time and pay them rent, or I could join the military and go explore the world. And so I chose to go explore the world because I didn't quite know what I wanted to do with my life, despite going to school for culinary and baking, focusing on baking as a teenager and having a full ride scholarship to Johnson and Wales in Rhode Island. I gave all of that up so that I could serve my country. I was a 5th generation. I can trace it back before the Second World War of my family.
Yeah.
I am not comfortable talking about the trauma that happened in there, but I'm sure that you can imagine the things that happened.
Do you feel like you went the military route because it was a family business kind of thing? Today's episode is sponsored by a long-term CGM that's going to help you to stay on top of your glucose readings, the Eversense 365. I'm talking, of course, about the world's first and only CGM that lasts for 1 year. 1 year, 1 CGM. Are you tired of those other CGMs? The ones that give you all those problems that you didn't expect? Knocking them off, false alerts, not lasting as long as they're supposed to? If you're tired of those constant frustrations, use my link, eversensecgm.com/juicebox to learn more about the Eversense 365. Some of you may be able to experience the Eversense 365 for as low as $199 for a full year. At my link, you'll find those details and can learn about eligibility. eversensecgm.com/juicebox. Check it out. The brand new twiist insulin pump offers peace of mind with unmatched personalization and allows you to target a glucose level as low as 87. There are more reasons why you might be interested in checking out Twiist, but just in case that one got you, twiist.com/juicebox. That's twist with 2 eyes.com/juicebox. You can target glucose levels between 87 and 180. It's completely up to you. In addition to precision insulin delivery that's made possible by Twiist's design, Twiist also offers you the ability to edit your carb entries even after you've bolused. This gives the Twiist Loop algorithm the best information to make its decisions with. And the Twist Loop algorithm lives on the pump, so you don't have to stay next to your phone for it to do its job. Twist is coming very soon. So if you'd like to learn more or get on the wait list, go to twist.com/juicebox. That's twist with 2 eyes.com/juicebox. Links in the show notes, links at juiceboxpodcast.com.
Yes and no. My mom, oh gosh, the day I told my mom I was joining the military, we got into a really big fight because she wanted me to go to college. I had the will, I had the drive. I was an extremely good student, and I had a really big promising future that I fought for to get there. And she's like, why are you giving this up? And so she didn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I knew I didn't want to spend all my money on school if I wasn't ready. And I wasn't making enough to even live as a teenager. So that's why I went that route. Pride, yes, but a lot of like get myself out in the world and get some real world experience. And it was great because I became a paralegal. And when I became a paralegal in the Army, I come out of the Army and I've got a job right away. I had served in South Korea as a confinement facility paralegal, working with those enlisted who were dealing with incarceration and getting them home. I worked with the South Korean government and taking care of our soldiers who were confined there, things like that. And it was such a life experience that when I came home, I had job opportunity. I right away went into being a paralegal and getting my degree as a paralegal as well.
I see. Awesome. So you don't regret the not going the baking cooking route?
Sometimes I wonder how my life would be different. I can't say I'd regret it though. I wouldn't have my children. And that was the whole reason I didn't want to be a baker, was because bakers get up really early and they have to work on the weekends. And I knew I wanted children and I wanted to be there for them. And I couldn't see myself getting up that early and, not being there for them at that time.
I have to tell you, it's what made me stop doing it. So
really? Were you a baker? I had no idea.
So when I headed into high school, your options were go to high school or you could go to technical school and high school.
Yeah.
I only went because it was a day away from school in middle school. Like you could go visit the tech school and look around. So I went for the day off, if I'm being perfectly honest. They're touring the building, and I mean, it was interesting the way it was set up and everything, but nothing like really sparked my interest. I was like, oh, like there was actually a class where you just made school lunches and served them. like right there was, and that was a class. It was a 3-year course, and there was a 3-year class where like you ran the school store, like it was retail, and there was hairdressers, and there was small engine repair. I'm trying to remember everything that was in there. Metal shop, like that kind of thing. And I was like, I don't really care about any of this. And then if I'm being 100% honest, I enjoy cooking, baking more so, but just, recreationally at home. But there were a lot of pretty girls in the baking class. And I was like, oh, I guess if I was going to do it, I would do this. But I still had no real interest in it. And then at the end, they're kind of explaining everything at the end. And then they explained the schedule. And as soon as they explained the schedule, I was like, I'm coming here to avoid going to high school. Like, this is awesome. The schedule was 2 solid weeks at high school and then 2 solid weeks at the technical school.
Oh, y'all did it differently.
Well, in a 3-year period, because I think my middle school went to 9th grade. So I was in 9th grade when that was happening. So I figured I have 3 years left. I have to go to high school for 3 years, or I have to go to high school for a year and a half. And I was like, cha-ching, that makes a ton of sense to me. So I spent 3 years every other week, every 2 weeks. And we ran like an industrial bakery. And then we sold to the community.
Yes.
And I was incredibly good at it by the time it was over. And I enjoyed it. And then I got a job at a bakery. And I was like, wait, I have to be here at 1 a.m.? I swear to you, I may have done it for a week. And then I said, I'm so sorry, but I can't do this. And I stopped. So
I went in our high school, every 9th grader goes and sees our CTC. And I went with everybody, and I loved cooking with my stepdad, and he's a phenomenal cook, still is to this day, really great cook. And I said, I want to learn more about this. My parents saw me going to Harvard and becoming a lawyer. I said it for years that I was going to. And I was like, I kind of want to give this a try. They were upset. We talked about it a lot for long time. And then they agreed to let me join. And I think it was my third or fourth week in, because we do culinary and baking. We're all together. So you learn both skills. And they needed somebody to compete at a regional level for baking and pastry. And they asked me because, I don't know, I just struck them as somebody who might be interested.
Okay.
I was a 10th grader who knew nothing, and I loved it. And I took off with it and went to state level for competing and everything. And it's a lot of fun. Now it's great because I choose to cook different foods for Derek sometimes.
Yeah.
It's not all the time, but when I do, I have a baseline knowledge of what I need to do thanks to my time there.
I do think I'm just generally speaking better in the kitchen because of it.
Yeah.
And even like Arden enjoys baking, and so I'll help her sometimes. But we used to do it at scale. Like I didn't make a loaf of bread.
Right.
I made 150 loaves of bread.
Yes.
Yeah. And you didn't make cinnamon buns. You made 1,000 cinnamon buns. Like it was that kind of stuff. So it was a great time. I really do remember it fondly. And the girls were pretty. And so that helped. I once was, we had our own like locker rooms with bathrooms, like, for the bakery. And we makes it sound like everybody, but a few of we used to like congregate inside of them, but it wasn't a unisex situation. So, a lot of times you'd be in the girls' bathroom talking to the girls, or they'd be in the men's room, or like that. That's kind of how it just worked. I was suspended one time because I got caught in the ladies' room.
Oh no.
I was there invited, I just want to say. I think some of the girls were smoking and we were talking about like I don't know what the hell we were talking about. I guess the teacher realized that we were gone and probably smelled the smoke coming from the girls' room and like kind of came in and said, "I'm coming in, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, oh my God. So I literally, like out of a bad movie, was in the stall standing up on the toilet trying to get away with it. And I did not get away with it. So I got a couple days off. Ironically, I went to tech school to get time off and they gave me even more time off.
Yeah. I was just going to say, how did it work out?
It was very nice of them, honestly. Okay. So tell me a little bit about learning about your son's diagnosis.
That was hard. I love talking about my story with Derek, and he loves me talking about it. So I'm going to give it to you as plain as I give to everybody else.
Okay.
I got really sick. But before I got sick, Derek would walk up to me and he'd drink 16 ounces like from a water bottle and ask for more water. And I was like, that's so weird. This is a little weird. So I Googled it. Is it a sign of a growth spurt? Because I know when you eat a lot, you grow. But I was like, maybe I just don't know anything.
Fair enough.
Growth spurt. No, that's not what Google said. But he still does. He has a lot of issues going on. Now he's been diagnosed with ADHD. And he has a language disorder and anxiety disorder. At the time, we thought he might be autistic. And we did have him tested. So weird things are going on. If I tell somebody that I think my child has type 1 diabetes, they're going to tell me I have Munchausen because I'm always trying to come up with something for him. And that's not accurate. It always came that something happened, but it made me feel crazy.
Okay.
Like I thought we were going to have this normal childhood and it was just turning into so much more. So fast forward, I get a stomach bug and I was very sick. Laying on the couch, I was having a hard time. Couldn't even stand up without needing to run to the bathroom. And Derek starts vomiting. And I'm like, okay, well, he's got my stomach bug. No big deal.
Mm-hmm.
We'll monitor, make sure he's getting his fluids. And my husband is home. He's a gamer and he's gaming. And he's like, yeah, Derek fell asleep under my computer. Then he'd wake up and he'd talk to me and he'd just fall right back asleep. But every time he drinks something, within 20, 25 minutes, he's throwing up and it's not staying down. I said, okay, I think at this point you need to get him to the hospital. He's dehydrated. We need to make sure he's going to be okay. Cause it's a lot of throwing up.
Yeah.
Cause it's COVID time in 2022 still, they are so strict on the precautions. I knew I wasn't going to be allowed to go in because I was sick too. Mm-hmm. So Ryan takes him and I text him a while later and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And he goes, they took his blood sugar and it just said high. And he just put HI. So I'm like, what does this even mean? What are you talking about? And he goes, I don't know any more than that because he's a guy and he's not the most adept at being in the hospital and advocating for what he needs.
Right.
So I call him and I say, put the nurse on the phone. He's like, you don't have to do that. I said, yes, I do. And she puts him on the phone and she tells me, and I said, wow. She goes, we think that he was actually passing out all those times he was falling asleep. He was actually passing out. And so I come into the hospital. They're going to transfer him. We use CHOP because we're outside of Philly. And they wanted us to go to Penn State. And I am not docking Penn State. I'm sure that they are great over in Hershey. But I said, CHOP is number one for endocrine. We are going to endocrine. I don't care if we have to wait. We're going there. So I have time to make it in and tell my baby how much I love him and how sorry I am. And the doctor pulls me aside and he goes, Mrs. Morgan, if you would have waited 2 more hours, your son would have died.
Oh my gosh. How high was his blood sugar?
He was over 1,000.
Oh.
His A1C was 10.3, but he looked like death. He looked like a skeleton. I have pictures of him. I mean, it was pretty bad. He lost, in his little 38-pound body, he went down to 30 pounds. And so he was pretty sick for a while that I didn't recognize.
Yeah, Chelsea, how long do you think it was going on for?
Probably a month.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit more.
Just so
and
small.
I kill myself for that.
Oh,
you know?
Hard to say.
I felt so bad.
You know, I understand. It happened to us, and I understand how you feel. My gosh. Okay, so now you're sick and at the hospital, and you guys are going to CHOP. Like, what's the process like of getting him from where he was to being healthy? I used to hate ordering my daughter's diabetes supplies. I never had a good experience, and it was frustrating. But it hasn't been that way for a while. Actually, for about 3 years now, because that's how long we've been using US Med. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. US Med is the #1 distributor for Freestyle Libre systems nationwide. They are the #1 specialty distributor for Omnipod DASH, the #1 fastest growing Tandem distributor nationwide, the #1 rated distributor in Dexcom customer satisfaction surveys. They have served over 1 million people with diabetes since 1996, and they always provide 90 days worth of supplies and fast and free shipping. US Med carries everything from insulin pumps and diabetes testing supplies to the latest CGMs like the Libre 3 and Dexcom G7. They accept Medicare nationwide and over 800 private insurers. Find out why US Med has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau at usmed.com/juicebox, or just call them at 888-721-1514. Get started right now, and you'll be getting your supplies the same way we do.
He was in for 4 days. He responded really well to the insulin, so they didn't have to keep him in for too long. He didn't have to go ICU either, which was amazing. He started on a potassium drip and was receiving insulin, and they, had to do all of our education. So within a day, I was feeling better. So I came down the next day and stayed with him and learned all of the shots and stuff. He was so amazing. Now, this is before. It was with Daddy. So he would just lay there. They put IVs in him. They're giving him insulin via a syringe. He's just laying there. He's not complaining. The moment I walk in that room, the child's waterworks turn on. He is back to himself. He is like, my mom is here and I can tell you exactly how I'm feeling and it ain't good. So we had a lot to work through and learn. His finger pokes, never a problem, but giving him the insulin. I mean, there were times where I was one leg over his body, my other arm holding on to him, and I'm just trying to put insulin in his arm where I can. It was quite the fight, but initially he was really good in the hospital, a really good listener to what the doctors were saying. He is extremely intelligent, so I'm not surprised, but at that time we didn't realize how smart he was. So he was a good kid. I can't complain.
That's awesome. How did it make you feel?
Awful. I thought I was killing my child. I held a lot of regret because I felt like if I would have caught it earlier, maybe something could have been different. And realizing now, all my research now, I know nothing would have been different. We just would have known sooner and he might not have had to stay in the hospital as long. But I felt like I failed my child and he had enough going on. Why am I doing this to him too? But I had a rule, and I still have this rule to this day. I get 24 hours to feel really bad about myself, to kick my butt, to feel the guilt and cry as much as I need to. But after that 24 hours, we're turning it off. We're going into mom mode, and we're going to figure out how to live our life with this disease or whatever it is that we have going on, like our ADHD stuff going on. I feel guilt over all of these things as his mom. I'm not bringing that to the surface. That stuff is going to stay. I might talk to my therapist about it, but I'm not showing my child this. We're going to be strong. We're going to get through it, and we're going to do it as a family. And I recognize his emotions. I'm not telling him not to have them, but I don't dwell, because if I do that, the mental health stuff starts to pick up, and I can't. And that's not good, Mom. I'm not going to be a bad mom. So I'm going to shove that down a little bit, and I'm going to handle business.
Are you able to do that for yourself as well? Or is it only a control that you can assert when it's for the kids?
That's a really good question. At this point, I don't know that there's a whole lot that would make me lose my mind the way that I lost it about Derek and the guilt that I felt. Even competing in pageantry, at the end of the day, if you don't win, that can be tough, but I don't hold on to that. I just go, okay, what's next, and move forward.
Yeah.
So I think.
Is that a learned skill? Did a therapist teach that to you?
No, I think that's a life experience, not so much a therapy experience.
Give yourself 24 hours and then that's that.
Yeah. Right.
Does it ever not work? Do you ever wake up on the 26th hour and go, hey, what the hell?
I don't even know that I gave myself a full 24 hours for Derek's diagnosis. So sometimes I think I'll give myself an hour here or there. The burnout does happen, but for the most part, no, I don't. After I've set my mind to this is what we're going to do, I'm very hard-headed. We were having a discussion about what we're doing for our vacation, and I'm like, this is my plan. This is it. We're not deviating. This is Chelsea's plan. And Ryan loves me for that. He's not an overly emotional person, but he also doesn't want to plan everything. So I get the plan, I set the plan in motion, and we all just follow. And they're happy to do that. So when it comes to all things, I tend to just find my way as I think is necessary, because I put on a really good front for people. I might break down, and this is for diabetes. This is for relationships with other people. This is all of it. At nighttime, I might give myself time to cry. I might become very vulnerable, but in the daylight, I try to be as strong as possible, because I've learned that not a whole lot of people care if you're sad. If they have their own things going on, they don't necessarily want to hear what you have going on all the time. There's a lot worse going on in the world, and not everybody wants to listen to my sob story all the time.
It's very, very adult of you.
Oh, thanks. It took a while.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a big leap for people to make. How do you start off with managing? He's really little. Did they try to give you pens? Did they talk to you about a CGM? I'm interested in how that went.
CHOP is very big into requiring you to have an extreme amount of time understanding how to work out the math for giving insulin. So we did not start off with, I will say pens, I don't understand because we didn't have them. So I can't say, I don't know how much you can control that compared to syringes. We've always used a needle syringe, but they say that you have to have 6 months of Dexcom free, pod free time so that you are capable. 3 to 6. I'll say 3 to 6.
May I shout out CHOP, which was Arden's hospital growing up?
Yes, absolutely.
That's not right. There's no reason to keep somebody from a CGM for 6 months. I understand the idea and everything, but that's my opinion. I think that's wrong. Yeah. But go ahead.
Now that we're here, now that we have it, I totally agree with you. But ow, sorry, cat's biting me.
Wait, what just happened?
My cat was biting me. He's a love nibbler. It's his way of saying love me.
Oh, me too. I didn't know I'd have anything in common with your cat. That's awesome. Do you think we can call this episode Love Nibbler? Because I believe we're going to.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah. Unless you can come up with something better. I was actually stuck on 25th hour because I don't know how the hell I jumped over from 24 to 26 when I made my comment earlier. But we're going to go with Love Nibbler for now. Go ahead. I'm sorry. That's
fine. By the way, our cat's name's Kristoff and Elsa. So Kristoff was the one nibbling. He's my nibbler. So anyway, sorry. CHOP has this they want us to wait. And I was okay with that mainly because Derek didn't want it. And body autonomy is extremely important to me for my children. especially with all that he's had going on. So he sees these things sitting on people's arms. He doesn't understand what they are because he's 4 going on 5. And he's like, no, I'm not doing this. But we were still fighting the needles. And it wasn't until I went to a friend and was talking to her, and she had done a lot more research into the diabetes than I had. I kind of took it step by step. I took what CHOP was giving me rather than I didn't join groups until he was 8 months into his diagnosis. I did research, but I didn't go so far into like diet changes or anything like that. I wanted to know the why behind it more than the what to do with it at that moment. And that's just how I dealt with it. But anyway, so she tells me, Chelsea, body autonomy is important, but he is 5 years old and he doesn't understand that these are life-saving devices and they're going to make all of your lives easier. Because we were still at the point where I was holding him down to give him insulin and he was choosing not to eat so he wouldn't get insulin. It wasn't all the time, but he would rather not have a snack when he's he was 35 pounds. Just so tiny when you think about it. I took my friend's advice. I went and I pushed to get the pump. We were probably 5 months in when we got the pump. We were 4 months in, I believe, when we got Dexcom. Can I be honest about something that I was a bad parent for, but I didn't know I was a bad parent?
Please.
I didn't know that parents that don't have their kids on CGM wake up at like 2 a.m. and check their kids' blood sugar. I didn't do that.
By the way, CHOP gave me that advice 20 years ago. I said, what about testing overnight? They said, don't worry about it. I said, well, why is it important if I test during the day? No answer.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
They didn't tell me. I had no idea. And so I'm sleeping through the night and my mother-in-law's going, by the way, my mother-in-law is my best friend. Her name is Sherry. She is very supportive of us. She learned everything to take care of Derek immediately because they have weekly sleepovers, and she's a wonderful advocate for Derek as much as I am. So I have to give her all the props and shout out for this. But, we get him on the Dexcom and she's like, everybody says their kids go low overnight and we don't know that. And I was like, yeah, he wakes up. So clearly I'm not doing anything wrong.
He's alive. Right.
Get the Dexcom and I realized how much he's waking up and I'm going, oh, did I almost kill my kid? How much did my child almost die? And I had no idea. And that was very eye-opening for me. So then we pushed to get the pod and we get the pod, and that gave us more control because he was little and he still does this. He's peckish. He doesn't always eat when he wants to or says he's going to, doesn't eat all of it. So, giving him insulin hasn't always been easy, but they also didn't tell us about pre-bolusing when he was in the hospital. They're just like, well, give him insulin once he's eaten. And I'm sure their thought is, well, he's little, so he may not eat everything. The problem is he's little and he eats everything, like everything in sight. So learning about pre-bolusing once we have the Omnipod, and why didn't I know these things? Where were these things when I needed them? And it gave us a huge sense of freedom. And Derek felt it immediately. And the need for him not to have it went away. He wasn't uncomfortable. He willingly took the changes, even when they were hard. The biggest thing for us was learning that we needed to get Glucagon, or we were using Unisolve, and now they don't have the liquid Unisolve. So getting that kind of stuff so that we can get them off. That was the worst part, was getting them off. I was just ripping them, tearing his skin off.
Tell me now with hindsight, if CHOP comes to you and says, you need 6 months of learning the math, what would you say to them?
Pound sand.
Why? Why are they wrong?
You can do both things. You can learn the math and you can have the tools that you need. Giving him the Omnipod gave him better blood sugars immediately. It wasn't over time. He still was not having good A1Cs. He was in the 8s. And I get it. For some people, that's great. His A1C is 6.3 right now. We are not having crazy lows. I mean, sometimes, but that's God bless my son problem.
By the way,
That's
you would have had those lows without the CGM too.
Right.
Here it is in a nutshell. Having a CGM or a specific way of delivering insulin, and or both even perhaps, and understanding how diabetes work, those two ideas are not mutually exclusive. Right. It is not an either or situation. You can actually do both at the same time. Crazy.
I appreciate the knowledge that they gave me.
Listen how nice you are. Go ahead.
I know that they're number one. I fully support them being number one for other things too. My friends have different problems with their endocrine systems that I've learned a lot about, and CHOP has been very good about and helping to handle. I think that the handling of this is wrong. And I give my friends all of my information. I mean, I mentally unload. There have been a total of 5. And I know for you, you've probably, I don't even know if you keep count of how many people you've saved by sharing your information, like sharing Arden's story.
I wouldn't know how to count that, but I wonder sometimes.
I started Derek's Defenders, which is our soon to be nonprofit, so that I can share Derek's story more and give people things, even small things. Like I want to give out iLet ports. Are you familiar with them?
The injection ports, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I want to give those out to people when they're diagnosed with like kids getting diagnosed with diabetes, because the pain that my son felt doesn't have to be there. Like things like that. But I share Derek's story through Derek's Defenders. And the reason I do that is because I don't want a doctor walking up to my friends or to strangers I don't know saying 2 more hours and you would have killed your son. I don't want that for anyone. I don't want them to feel those things. So that's why we talk about diabetes. I go to schools. I get on the news as much as I can. You letting me talk about this right now. I mean, I'm sharing Derek's story. You share Arden's story all the time. These are ways that we are saving people. And that's just what I want. That's Derek's goal too. He became a JDRF ambassador this year so he can share his story more.
It's lovely that you're getting out there and telling that story. I think that just sharing what's happening, in real time is valuable, and let people, figure things out for themselves. Like, what if instead of somebody telling you this is how it has to be, they said, this is how it could be. It could also be like this. We could also do a mix of these things. What do you think sounds right?
Yeah. I live that life right now. I'm sure you hear this all the time because of your community on Facebook about, carbs, no carbs, wheat, no wheat, all those kinds of things. And we choose the mixture of lifestyle. Sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. And I think that that's important for people to choose how they want to have their life. But I think that knowing that information, I think that CHOP should share how people are going low carb as an option. They're not saying you have to do this. They're just saying, here is an option for you.
No, I don't think anybody has to do anything. And I don't actually, I've said this 1,000 times maybe on the podcast, but I think that we get to where we are, slowly historically, meaning, 20 years ago, it was probably a great thing to say to somebody, like, you really need to understand this before you get a pump, but what's the rest of that for? Because back then, their concern was if you inject a basal insulin, then even if you don't bolus for your meals, even if you get your carb counting super wrong, you'll have some background insulin happening and you won't end up in DK. That's what they were hoping for, right? Like, so if I put somebody on a pump and they don't know how to use the pump, maybe they won't get their basal delivered correctly. Or maybe the pod or the pump site will go bad and they won't change it and they'll end up in DK. Like, I get where the idea started and how it progresses through technology. But the problem is that 20 some years later, they're saying the same thing and the game has completely changed.
Right.
It's a different game and you're using old rules.
Right.
That's all.
I do think about the people too, when it comes to the basal and bolus, who dose themselves with the wrong one. And I see it daily in the groups. Help. I gave myself 34 units of quick acting insulin.
That
and
happens.
I'm going,
for sure.
Oh my God. I can't do that on my pod. Thank God we can't do that. That kind of stuff.
Also, what a great opportunity to learn about like how the food impacts the insulin versus how the insulin impacts the food. Thank God they come online and talk about it, because first of all, they get great feedback right away from people who are like, look, just reverse engineer it. Like, what'd you do? 10 units? Like, what's your carb ratio? Oh, your carb ratio is 1 to 10? Wow. You can eat 100 carbs right now. Like, I bet you haven't done that in a while. like, go, that kind of thing. And then they learn and, other people get to see it happen and hopefully it stops them from doing it. I'm just telling you that we should not be talking about things now based on problems that existed in the past that generally speaking don't exist anymore.
I agree.
Okay, I give you a pump and you don't know how to use it and you don't get insulin. Well, if you were also wearing a CGM, then the thing would beep when your blood sugar got high.
Right.
Problem solved, So, and you get all of the myriad of benefits that come with seeing your data in real time, which
Absolutely.
are extensive. Anyway, how's he chugging along right now? Like, how's Derek making out?
Well, we just had COVID last week.
Wait, so retro of you.
That was a learning curve. He's never had COVID before, especially being sick. So that was quite the learning curve for his insulin needs, but he's great. Last night we had a pod that was very uncomfortable. He came in upset because it was digging in. It cracked. The whole pod cracked and was digging into his skin. So we changed that. But anyway, that's day-to-day stuff. He's great. He wears his pods out in public for people to see. He tells everybody, he'll walk into a room and be like, I have type 1 diabetes, just so everyone knows so that he can be safe and so that he can talk about it. He's so cute with it. I love him. He's different. If you met him, you would love him too. I know it. He's just a really great kid and he doesn't let it hold him back. He does baseball. He's in Cub Scouts. He plays outside every single day with his friends or inside if it's cold because we live in Pennsylvania and the weather doesn't know what to do with itself right now. He lives his best life. He's gone to diabetes camp, not really wanting to go this year, but that's okay. He's gone to other summer camps that in our area are willing to accept type 1 diabetics. And I love them for that. I keep tight control when he's there. And I make sure he's not too far that I couldn't come if there was an emergency. And he lives his very best life. I think that Derek is going to have a great life. No matter what he chooses to do with it, he's going to go very far.
What if I met him and I didn't like him? Wouldn't that be awkward?
It would be really awkward, but I don't know how you would do that. You'd have to really not like kids.
It's just like, oh my God, your kid is terrible. I hate this kid.
Well, I will say that ADHD makes some things hard. He doesn't always know how to stay still and is very technology obsessed, which is hard, but we work on that. And he's come a long way in the last 2 years with everything that he's got going on.
What does technology obsessed mean? He likes his phone? What are we talking about here?
He wants to play Minecraft 24/7. Oh. He will play, I don't know. Do you have an iPhone? I'm sure you have an iPhone,
I'm looking at one right now.
All right. So if you download Game Pigeon on your phone,
I don't think that's gonna happen.
You can play games with people through text messaging. It's bad, but you can play beer pong. They call it cup pong, but you can play beer pong on your phone with somebody that's forever away. And there you go. You're playing games. Battleship. They play checkers and chess. He does love chess. So he'll play chess on his phone. We're a very big Disney family. So we watch a lot of Disney movies. He wants a screen in his face all the time. And I know that's a generational thing that they're seeing that, kids, we were not an iPad family. He did not have that kind of access, but he wants that TV on all the time. And I think it helps his brain calm down. Okay. So he's pretty tech obsessed.
Awesome. Listen, I loved technology when I was growing up. I mean, it wasn't really technology back then, but I really did love it. So I had an Atari, and people were like, what is this magic in your house? I'm like, it's a video game in my house, my friend.
My husband is very big into gaming. He has a very nice setup upstairs. He streams with his friends. And so he sees his dad doing it, playing these hardcore games that he can't, you can't get out of because if you stop playing, I don't know what's going to happen, but something's going to happen. They might come and find you. That's my theory.
I had a robot when I was a kid, and it was a few feet tall, honestly, like 2.5 feet tall. And it was on a base and it had like treads under it and everything. You had to program it. Like there was the little buttons on the front and they were just forward, left, right. And so you would just like hit program and then go 1, 2, 3 segments forward, then make a left turn 1 segment, then go forward 2 segments, make a right, and then it would walk through the house. That was technology. Like my first remote control car had a cord between the remote control and the car.
What? That's a thing?
I'm old. Yeah, my first video game was a knob on the side of my television. There was a knob on either side, the left or right side, so you could play Pong.
Oh my gosh.
You'd throw a switch on the TV and the TV would shut off and this blue screen would come up. And then you turned the dial left or right and the paddle, which was just a block, like it was a bar, would go up and down the right side of the screen and the one on the left side of the screen. And then a ball would come out, but the ball was square. And then you would touch it and it would bounce and then ricochet and the other person would try to stop it from going off their side. That was it. I mean, that was a real thing we had.
So do you game? Do you game now?
No, I stopped when I became an adult.
I hope my husband listens to this.
I'm going to tell your husband what happened. I had a kid. One day I bought him Madden and he loved it. And I realized I'm an adult and I have things to do, and I never played it again.
Oh.
Yeah, that's all. Also, he was way better at it than me, and it was very frustrating.
Right. Derek does play college football on the TV with his dad. That he likes to do that too, but Ryan still got him on that. I think we've got at least another year before Derek starts beating him at all games.
Yeah, I don't know. I've gotten to the point in my life where I don't have enough time to like sometimes I find myself going, why won't I go pee? I think when you get to that point, you're not like, you know what we should do? We should settle in and play Madden. So I just don't have that kind of time anymore. I don't know. If I did have that kind of time, truth is, I'd do something else with it too. So
I do over 600 hours of community service. This year alone, I'm at 600.
That's awesome.
And it's a lot of work. So when I see them playing, I'm like, go find something to do. Find somebody who you can help, or at least go find a friend to talk to. Why are we playing this anymore? But I tell my kids this: don't yuck someone else's yum. So just because I don't like it doesn't mean they don't have to. And I will be as respectful as I emotionally can handle that day.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm going to regret not asking you this, and I feel like I might regret asking you this. But did you say you're the 2024 what?
I'm the International Women of Service Sweetheart. I won an international pageant in July of last year. And so I competed and won. And the Sweetheart is our age division.
Thank God you said it again, because for the life of me, I kept thinking you saying sweetheart. And I was like, I don't understand. What?
I mean, I am sweet like that. You might pucker up. It's okay. Remember, love nibbles.
What is that?
We focus on community service. That's why I started. I did not start pageantry as a young woman. As a child. I started pageantry as an adult a few years ago they were originally American Women of Service, but have since escalated to being an international pageant that focuses on community service and the women as a whole. So you won't see us on stage in bikinis or things like that. We are a scholarship pageant focused on who we are as women and young children, because we do have a child's division as well. Mm-hmm. We come together, we do a lot of community service and focus on those who need more than us, or whatever our passion is. Because for me, my passion, right, is type 1 diabetes, but really it's the medical community and supporting them however I can. Where my sister queen, Kathy, is in Las Vegas, and she loves working with Goody Two Shoes, who give shoes to children of all of their schools in Las Vegas, which is so cool. I love her platform focusing on that. And my other friend knits hats for babies in the NICU or somebody going through cancer. And another friend, all of these different things that we do, we come together and we celebrate that through our pageant experience. I still get to look beautiful in a dress. Interview is the highest point. So I have to talk to people and explain who I am, what I focus on, and where I plan to go. And then we get to rock that stage in whatever we choose.
Well, that's awesome. That's a great way to shine a light on community service being done.
Yes, I love it. It's a huge part of who I am. I did not do a whole lot of community service throughout my childhood. Wasn't really sure how I could get into that, even in my adulthood, where to look for that. So when somebody I saw or somebody I knew through Facebook won a pageant, I was like, oh, that sounds like fun. And I was in the middle of my diagnosis of borderline personality disorder and really needing to find who I was again. Mm-hmm. So I said to Ryan, hey, I think this is something I want to try. And he's such a supportive husband. He's like, awesome. Okay, look at you. Please don't ask me to come. They came, and they loved it this year. But he's just been so great about it, because I have all of these contacts and I do so much. I work with the Adeline Rose Foundation. I work with Ronald McDonald Make-A-Wish Foundation, and a lot of different opportunities. Warm Blanket Hugs is somebody I do a lot of work for. So I love the ability to get out there and talk about diabetes, but also see where other people are and meet them with what they need, or just a shoulder to cry on sometimes. Yeah.
Well, your husband is really supportive, because he's giving up his college game day time to come out and watch you. Did the kids come watch you do it?
Derek did come and watch. Blake was still a little young. He was 5.5 at that point, and we didn't think he was going to sit through a whole day. Derek didn't do the best sitting still, but when they put the crown on my head, the whole room was quiet. They had cheered for me already, so they were quiet, just waiting for me to take my first walk. And Derek yells out, good job, mama.
Aw.
And just the whole place, there wasn't a dry eye, including myself. I pulled him up on stage with me because I told him this win was for him. I share his story all over the country because of him, so that people know what diabetes looks like ahead of time to save that life if they need it. And so he knows that this is as much for me as it is for him.
Yeah. Oh, it's really wonderful. There is something here in your notes that I wanted to ask you about. What a weird thing for me to keep to the end. I guess I don't understand exactly what you mean when you just said medical bullying.
Oh, yes. When I entered those Facebook groups initially, I saw a lot of families posting. And if you remember, I waited a long time to join those groups on purpose because I knew I wasn't going to be able to handle all of the information at one time. But I saw a lot of parents posting because it was the back to school time that their child dealt with somebody smashing their phone or being taunted. Don't play with them because if you play with them, you're going to get diabetes, or not inviting them to a party because there's going to be sugar and mom didn't understand that said child could have sugar as long as they were dosed for it. And that broke my mom heart, because I don't want Derek to be treated different. I know he is different, but I don't want him to be treated that way. I want him to have a whole life experience that is filled with love and care and support. So the focus on medical bullying comes around bringing diabetes to the kids, explaining what it is. I basically say, and people might crucify me for this on the internet, but I'd say for a 5-year-old, I will tell them he's allergic to sugar. Oh, we understand what that means. I'm allergic to bees. I'm allergic to gluten. They can understand that at that level. But the older they get, I'm giving them more information into what diabetes really is. And by doing that, Derek doesn't face bullying. He's not left out of anything. Parents actually send in treats that are Derek friendly because they know we don't give cupcakes. It's just our personal choice. They'll send in something else. And he doesn't know any different life than any other child. I think that a lot of the bullying that happens, and this isn't just for diabetes, it's for all things, is because you don't understand. So if you're watching a child get diagnosed or deal with an autism diagnosis and they're getting bullied because of it, kids don't understand it. And so I bring that information to them, but I also share it with parents and teachers and faculty because they might treat him differently without meaning to. It just creates this safe space. That's what I want. I want a safe space. I don't want Derek to come home with broken things. I don't want his heart to be broken either. So that's why we do medical bullying.
Tell me some of the things that you've heard directly.
I heard about a child. This one sticks with me. Like, I can read it in my mind. A 3rd grader being pushed in the playground, that the child then grabbed the bully grabbed the pod off of the child and ripped it off.
For what? Like, what gets said during that? Do you have any idea?
I don't remember the exact words, but I know it comes that's mean. That is an extreme source of bullying, right? But I've also heard of kids that break phones, and that's a jealousy thing. It's not fair. You get to have a phone at school and I don't. I'm going to break it. And that's not, it might not always be jealousy. It could be truly just a bully being a bully, but those kinds of things happen. And I think the lack of knowledge is why.
Right. I ran into a lot of that. Not the pushiness, but thanks a lot for getting your kid a phone. Now my kid's asking for a phone. I was like,
gosh.
And I'm like, listen, you think I wanted to get my kid a phone? I think I was like, oh, you know what? I should really give my kindergartner,
right?
And B, like, it's just because of diabetes. Like, if you find a way to make the diabetes go away, I'd be thrilled to get rid of this phone. Like, I found explaining it to people put an end to it, but I guess you meet people who are just like barbarians, and they're, and they're not going to be reflective enough to understand the situation. Just, you have a phone, I don't, I'm mad. Right. Or, what is that on your arm? Give it to me. I don't know. Right. It's crazy.
Well, I went into the classroom when Derek was about to get his phone because he got it in October. So I guess that was 6 months. Wow. Holy cannoli. We were 6 months without Dexcom or Omnipod. I didn't realize that. I thought it was sooner. So I went into the classroom to explain why Derek is getting a phone, because I thought kids were going to be like this, especially with what I had seen. And I said to them, how many of you have a cell phone? Do you know almost every single kid raised their hand?
Yeah, nowadays it's not a problem. I'm talking about 20, I'm talking about like 15 years ago. So
I'm the mom that said my kids weren't going to get a phone until I was 13. God had other plans. He said, ha ha, let me show you what my plans are. And, now he's had a phone since he was 5 and I've had to navigate that. But I was so shocked because I was the mom that was like, nope, 13, that's it.
Yeah.
Nope, everybody. And most of them had it in their backpack. And the teacher was like, you have it in your backpack? What? Shocking things that have happened that you don't expect.
I'll tell you what, if using an iPhone meant you had to hit the forward button 3 times, the left button once, the forward button again, then right, then forward, right, forward, back, left, forward, nobody'd use them. Because
right.
As cool as I thought that robot was going to be, it was a pain in the ass.
I do have a set of cousins who, with their parents, have always said 143. And that was shorthand for I love you or something like that. I forget
I
how
love
it
you.
is.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's stuck with me. But I can't say that I want to go back to an analog situation like that. I'm good. I'll take my laptop.
Listen, I think, Chelsea, we could sit here for 25 hours and argue about all the things that technology is making worse, but I could sit here and tell you about all the things it's making better too. And I don't want to go backwards.
Right.
I don't think you can go backwards. And, it's going to be what it's going to be. And hopefully, like well-intended people will hopefully try to make some valuable things out of that technology. I mean, so far, that's not what's happened. But I mean, I can hold out hope, if you just right now, just go open TikTok as an example, and I'll charge you with spending a half an hour scrolling through it, and then don't touch it again for a week, and then go sit down and write down all the things you saw on TikTok. You won't think of anything. You know what I mean? You just won't remember. It's so empty calorie. I don't know. Like I feel like I sound like an old person saying that, but there are definitely better ways to spend your time.
I appreciate technology for the things that I specifically look for, recipes, book recommendations, but the fluff I do without. Yeah. I'm busy enough with the volunteer. I own my own business. I have my kids and they're all in their own sports and all of those things. So I totally agree with you 100%. I think that the fluff needs to go.
Yeah. I also think that what kind of ruins it is what kind of ruins everything. I'll say this and then we can say goodbye.
Sure.
Once something becomes popular, then people come along and try to copycat it because they want either the popularity or the money or whatever comes along with it, which I'm not going to tell you I don't understand, but that ends up ruining things sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like there are some things that were in the world that were awesome that got ruined by everybody glomming onto it. And I know like who's the gatekeeper, who gets to say who does it and who doesn't. Like I understand all the arguments and I know why it goes the way it goes. I'll just give you my best example is in 2007, January, I started a blog about being a parent of a child with type 1 diabetes. And at that time, I swear to you, the internet was so fractured and not what it is now that I didn't even know if anybody else was doing it. Like for all I knew, I was the only person in the world doing it. Like I seriously, I would have no way to know. I later learned my best understanding where there were probably 2 or 3 other type 1 blogs that existed either around the time mine started or in maybe the year or so prior to that. Like, right. So, but to say that I had one of the first type 1 diabetes blogs is an absolutely true statement. Okay. Yeah. It's not a brag or anything. It's for the story. The time it took from blogging to explode to when it fell apart, it happened so quickly. It was crazy to me. There were people sharing like really awesome stuff, like experiences and stories. And you could see the value in all of it. There were a couple people blogging who weren't very good at it. And that's fine. Their blogs didn't get a lot of traction and, they would kind of die on the vine. Again, like I think that's very natural. And when that's 10 or 50 or 100, like that works. But when you look up some 5 years later, and some study that was presented to me tells me that there were close to 4,500 type 1 diabetes blogs being written. I was like, well, what the hell? That's not necessary. But then, how do you prune that tree? It's nobody's job. Like, some of the stuff might be. And what if one person's writing a blog that's valuable to 6 people? Like, that's awesome. You think, okay, that's awesome. Until you realize that when you flood the space, it destroys it. Right. And so eventually it gets so fractured that you as the reader don't have time and you start acting like, oh gosh, like I'm going to go, like I want to try this one and that one and this, and then eventually you don't do any of them and it all falls apart. Then any of the value that it was bringing is gone. Now you can see that replicate over and over again throughout time. Right now it's huge on YouTube, right? Someone makes a YouTube video and it's super popular and you know for sure 1,000 other people are going to try to copy that video. And you know what I mean? And and some of them might be really good, but what ends up happening is that when you finally go into YouTube and search for whatever it is you're searching for, the returns are so great and so varied in quality that you just end up giving up. And now instead of there being a few people who were like delivering quality stuff, there's 1,000 people, 900 of them are garbage, 100 of them are awesome, and you can't find the good ones from the bad ones, and you flood the market and it ends. You lose that thing. I actually am watching, this is such a weird example. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
For people who listen, they'll probably know that like about a year ago, like my family bought me a chameleon as like a surprise gift. I didn't know what I was doing. I had to learn about it, etc. And so I found my way through that world to get information very quickly. And I found a handful of just incredibly insightful, good communicators who had great information. Right there they are. But it got so popular, reptile videos got so popular probably during COVID that everyone flooded YouTube with them. And now there are people who make awesome content that nobody sees anymore. The algorithm doesn't know what to do with it. And you know what I mean? And so instead of seeing 5 videos in a month that are just incredible, you know, if you try to search for that, what you get is 1,000 videos that are garbage. And then I go, forget this, and I'm done with it. And aside of that, like what it does there, I think it's the draw of monetization. Like, and then so the first 5 people that did it were like, I just want to write a nice type 1 diabetes blog. Like, I wasn't like, oh, I'll get a Google AdSense ad and make $50 a month. Like, I didn't think that, like, you know. And I don't think that the first person who was like, hey, this is me feeding my reptile and this is how I take care of it. And you can take good care of yours too if you do that. I don't think they were thinking like, I think one day I'll get paid by this. But then eventually they do. And then everybody runs up and they're like, I'm going to do it too. I'm going to do it too. And they're going to ruin it. Like I've seen it happen over and over again. I've seen really like great content creators that can't get their stuff seen anymore, which is insane. That kind of like mad rush to get paid turns into like, well, now I have to push out a ton of content.
Right.
And it's turned this space into that. Like it's turned all these space into it. Now suddenly, like, you know, you're like, oh, my favorite creators put up a video and you watch it and you're like, he just put this up because he needed to put up a video on Thursday. Like there's nothing here. Like there's nothing here. And now he's trying to satisfy the algorithm. I hear what you're saying. If you're saying, Scott, you put up a lot of content, podcast apps don't work the same way.
Right.
So whereas YouTube says, make content, and we'll serve, if people watch your content, we'll serve them more of it. Believe it or not, podcast apps don't work that way. You can listen to 3 episodes of this podcast in a row because you love it.
Right.
And if you don't choose the 4th episode to be this podcast, it will push you to something else.
Right.
I don't make a lot of content for that reason. I make a lot of content because I think we just have a lot to cover. And I want there to always be something there for people that are interested in listening. I also think that if I put 1 episode up this week and it's about a certain topic and you don't like that topic, I don't want there to not be anything there for you. Like, so I like you to have, I don't expect you to listen to every episode all week long, but I like you to have an option. Anyway, I just spoke way too long. But notice at the end of it, I'm not gasping for air. So pretty big win.
Go you.
Yeah, super excited. Good. Sorry.
I see that in my business industry too, and with all forms of textiles or anything that you want to make. You know, we love do I want to say the word? Am I allowed to say that? I'll say it. Temu, Shein, however you say that. You know, we all love that, but the quality that you're getting is not the same as somebody who, I own my own small business. I do this work every single day, day in and day out. I'm actually sitting in my office right now. My quality compared to what you're going to get from a 3rd world country is going to be very different.
Yeah.
But there's so much saturation that people are just going, I just want to save the most money. So I'm going to see what I can get. And then, oh, it didn't work out. I guess I have to go to the person who I have to pay a little bit more for. And it's happening through all industries, really. And I don't disagree with you. 500% agree with you.
Somehow the internet opened up the world and is crushing it at the same time. Like,
absolutely.
Listen, like if a guy says, I'm going to build a tank to put a crocodile skink in, I don't know, I'm now making up some words and I'm not. And he makes, $1,000 from that video. What that allows him to do is to make a follow-up video 6 months from now. Go, hey, look, this is how the setup's working now. And it's actually working. And it actually becomes valuable for you that way. It's not just eye candy. But if everyone's making this is how I set up the tank for my crocodile skink video, then none of them make money. And then none of them can afford to continue to make quality content for you. Like I sell ads. And so I can afford to sit down 2 years ago and say, I would like to take some core ideas from the podcast and turn them into shorter content. And then 2 years later, put out the Small Sip series. And you don't know how much effort and time goes into going out to the audience and saying, first of all, give me a complete list of everything that's ever been said that's been really impactful for you. And not big ideas that we all know, but was there a phrase that stuck in your head? Is there an idea that really leapt you forward? And we took that list and then culled it down and then went back and re-listened to that stuff and said, oh, this is what got them here. And then put it back together again and then sat down with Jenny and recorded that whole new series of 21 episodes, which took weeks and weeks and weeks because Jenny, this is not what Jenny does for a living. So I get her when I get her, then it goes out to an editor who makes a living editing this podcast and blah, 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 blah. And you know who's trying to kill that and they don't know they're trying to kill it? The 110 people who have launched a type 1 diabetes podcast since I launched mine. Now they're all gone. There's a handful left. I don't want to lie to you. There are some that exist. But I'm telling you that 110 or more, it's probably 150 at this point. I stopped looking at it years ago. People were like, hey, that guy has ads on his type 1 diabetes podcast. Now, some of them might have been like, I'd like to sell ads. And some of them might have just been like, I have a story I'd like to tell, which is awesome. Some of them might have been like, hey, that guy sucks. I can do it better. All these reasons are great reasons to start. And maybe they're right and maybe they're wrong. In the macro view of all this, stepping back, it's to some degree important for people with type 1 diabetes. This is going to sound incredibly pompous. It is important to some degree that I make enough money to live so that I can think about making you a video for 6 months from now about how the tank held up. It doesn't need to be me, somebody. That's important. So everything can't be so, like I was saying earlier, just empty calories. All your content can't be empty calories. Some of it actually has to be valuable. And I don't know, sometimes the flowers get choked out by the weeds. Now, sometimes better flowers grow, and I'm all for that. If somebody can come along and knock me off and do a better job, I hope they do. Well, I don't hope they do, but I think that would be wonderful if they were out there helping people. But instead, what ends up happening is you have 75 podcasts where somebody gets on and tells the same goddamn story.
Yes.
And that's what happened to the blogs. There used to be this thing. I thought it was lovely, but it was called Diabetes Blog Week. Maybe they still do it. I have no idea. But once you're up to thousands and thousands of blogs, and they do this thing called Diabetes Blog Week, and they give you a writing prompt, write to this on Monday, this to Tuesday, blah, blah, blah. I did it a couple of times. And then one day I was like, well, that person wrote almost the exact same thing I wrote, which told me that our experiences weren't that much different. And what that led me to think was, well, if that person can write that and I can write it, I don't need to write it. They'll write it. And you know what I mean? What do we need 75 of the same story for? It's good for the person. And it's great for the people that they are able to capture. And maybe that person was found that blog, wouldn't have found mine or vice versa or whatever. But the unintended ending to this, every time I've seen it in my life, is eventually you'll oversaturate the space and kill it. So
when you go looking for anything online, it's going to go based off of SEO, of course, and you're going to have how many views are you getting? So the one who gets the most views gets to be at the top of Google's search engine. And almost every time when you click into whatever it is, example, right now I'm working on a project for Read Across America. And I am searching for cute little crafts that I can do in my son's room with paper plates. And so I type in paper plate fish and I click on it. I can't even read through most of the blog because it is ad after ad after ad because all these people are seeing is monetization. But if I go to the exact same, the next one underneath, it is almost word for word the same wording too.
Yeah.
That is the other problem with blogs is that people are stealing content.
Oh,
I think personally.
Yeah, that's been going on forever. And with AI too, they'll scrape your stuff and then rewrite it and just put it out as their own. That's going to happen soon too. But listen, no shade, right? There's I won't say anybody's name, but there is a person who talks about chameleons online. Their content is rock solid. It's awesome. It's a person who pays attention, has been in it for decades. Everything you learn from them is valuable. They continue to teach themselves more and bring it out to you. It's awesome. One problem, delivery, not great. But it doesn't matter because I say to myself, well, that's the information. I'll sit and listen to it, right? And I don't care if it's not exciting or if it's not visually appealing or if even like audibly you're just a little like once in a while you're like, man, get to it. You know what I mean? What's there is awesome. The other day, I tried to find a specific piece of information about one of my animals, and this person's video came up. It's like an hour long. I listened to it. Everything I needed to know, done, explained well, awesome.
Yeah.
But the video's got a few thousand views. Underneath of it is a video with 857,000 views.
Wow.
With a girl talking about the same animal, but she's doing it with a top that just shows a little bit of cleavage. And she's very well made up and her background's lovely and it's all lit well. And I thought, I'm going to click on this. And I clicked on it. And man, she gets almost everything wrong about that animal.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, to the credit of the community, they jump in and they go, that's not right. This is wrong. You're saying that like blah, blah. But it doesn't matter. 900,000 views with bad information because pretty girl. 3,000 views on the absolutely great information because it just doesn't fit the way the algorithm feeds it to you or the way your brain wants or whatever. But like, you don't go into a college course and sit down and say like, oh, this very learned person who's telling me this information, she's boring, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to listen. Like all the information's great. Like you sit and do that because you're in college. But when you get out into the world like this, it doesn't work, which is why I've had to do, I've been criticized sometimes for like, why does he talk about diabetes in such a lighthearted way? Like, I mean, surprise, I'm tricking you into listening to information about diabetes. Like, because if I just came out and did what that guy did, you'd click over and go watch somebody else whose, clavicles are showing. And then you wouldn't know how to, like, I don't know, pre-bolus for your dinner. And so, I don't know. Anyway, I don't know how we got here other than to say, like, I'm all for people making their stuff. I'm really not a gatekeeper. I think that everybody should try. But what it does is it gives me an extra job. Like my job now is to like innovate, stay ahead, not let the space crash around me.
And provide the good content that you do provide already.
Doing my best here. Yeah. So I don't know. I have no idea how this happened. Although I am shot out of a cannon today. This is awesome. And unfair to you, Chelsea. I apologize.
Oh gosh, no, it's true. I live this life every day. So you're not alone in your thought process. It's a conversation I have all the time with people. So yeah. I appreciate the conversation. I actually read your post about stuff in your Facebook group about how you're going to be pushing out information because it was I love information. Information is how we are as a society supposed to grow and thrive and all those good things. And so I appreciate the information. If nobody else wants to listen, they know how to turn it off.
Yeah. Again, that's awesome. Just don't listen. It's cool. Like trust me, there's enough people listening. I'm okay. But like, but what you're referring to is that I've built up what I think is an awesome online, like private Facebook group, right? Like I think now it's 58 or 59,000 people in there. By the time you hear this, I can almost tell you because it grows so consistently. It'll grow by about 150 every 3 days. You won't hear this for like 6 months. So whatever that math is. Awesome group. It's a genuinely great place. It does about 120, 125 new posts a day. Likes or hearts over 9,000 a day. Likes, hearts, or comments 9,000 a day. Absolutely valuable for people.
And I think in your group, though, I do have to say this: your group has some of the most, I want to say lighthearted. I don't know if that's the exact correct term for this, but you're not going to get bullied in your group or put down because of your belief, because we all know, we're all coming from different walks of life, instead of saying you have to listen to this one way. And you foster that.
We very carefully moderate for kindness. That's how we handle it. And I think the group follows my vibe, which I think is also helpful. But the problem is that if I have an episode that goes up today and I'm like, oh, look, I'd like to tell people about this. I make a nice post up, I put it together, and here it is for you. You can do whatever you want with it. The algorithm won't feed it to people, even though it's my group. It just doesn't. So the only thing the Facebook algorithm enjoys is hot guys with animals. It's good with that. It's good with arguing. That it's very good at. If I were to write a post that said, hey, Anthony Fauci gave you the COVID, and by the way, today's episode is about blah, 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 then 57,000 people would see it. But if I just write today's episode was about Chelsea and she came on to talk about this, this, and this, it's not that people aren't interested in it. It's that the algorithm literally won't show it to them. So
I understand.
What you were referring to earlier is I'm going to endeavor for a month to see if posting the same thing slightly differently, more frequently, helps for people to see it. And I have to be honest with you, I don't imagine it'll work, but I'm going to try. It's been one of the bigger frustrations of running the podcast and the group. I don't understand how Facebook doesn't know that if 60,000 people are following you, they're interested in what you're saying.
I know that you will also lose people. Never highlight and at everyone, even though that's an option. Don't do those things. That's like a huge no.
Right. Facebook's like, here's an everyone tag. Every time you say everyone, 30 people are just like, ugh, don't tell me what I should be looking at. And then they delete.
Yes. And then you're gone. You're not coming back.
Cannot win is the answer.
I think that you're doing really, not that my opinion matters. I am not a professional in any, like you, but I do think that you are doing well because I do have the experience of the SEO. I used to do copywriting and all those kinds of things. And I think that what you put out is good. And as long as you keep it good, I will listen if that matters at all.
Well, it matters. Absolutely. I very much appreciate it. Well, these are just some of the backroom difficulties that make telling you about, diabetes difficult. You would think it would just be as easy as here's the information about diabetes. Oh, you want to follow me? You'll see it.
Yeah.
The small sip series is just the latest thing that's, frustrating because this is a thing people asked for. And I'm not kidding you. It took 2 years to get it out and do it correctly. And now here it is. And you go, okay, here it is. And people say, oh, I didn't know that was available. And I think to myself, I posted a half a dozen times over the last 3 weeks about this. You didn't see one of those? And I go back and look at the post. No, nobody saw those posts. It's in the podcast feed. You didn't see that there? Well, I'm more in the Facebook group. I don't really, I go listen to the podcast, but I'm not subscribed to it. Okay, that's fair enough. So there's another way I can't get this info. So here's information people want. They've asked for it in droves. And you go, okay, here it is. And then the algorithm says, no. But if you'd like to argue about tipping culture, that we could make sure everybody sees. If you want to put up a post about how some, girl in New Zealand died because her religious parents didn't give her insulin, I can make sure everyone sees that for you. That's the kind of stuff. If you want to argue or say something sad, that algorithm will push it at you in 2 seconds.
You said something earlier about how people can't believe you make it all lighthearted. And all I can still think, it's still in my brain, I hope you don't mind me bringing it back up, is that what do they want us to do? Because if we were to sit in our room crying for the next 3 years because we're dealing with this, or talking about how negative it is, they're not going to listen either. They're not, they don't want to be a part of that. And I get death is a mystery. And so people are intrigued by it. But you make people want to continue living. Isn't that a worthy cause? People should be praising that.
Oh, I think most people enjoy it, but the people who don't like the mix of medical and lightheartedness, that it really makes them upset. Don't joke, it's serious. I'm it's serious, but what are you going to listen? You're not going to listen to that, are you? If we get on here and go hey, Chelsea, so your 3-year-old has diabetes. Huh? How's that feel? Well, Scott, I'm thinking of throwing myself out of a window. That's not a podcast. You're not going to listen. And then we're never going to get to the part where you're just oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. That's helpful. That I know. I guarantee you that plenty of people have opened up a microphone and said really valuable things about diabetes into it that nobody's ever heard because it's boring. And like, but there's a line between making it not boring and making it empty calories. Like, I don't go empty calories. I just make it lighthearted enough that you stay engaged with it, hopefully. You know, like that's the goal.
Absolutely.
And there's always going to be somebody complaining about something. I mean, that's just going to happen. Right. And I can't be for everybody. I also appreciate that some people maybe just get on here and go like, I don't like that guy. Or I don't want to listen to somebody who doesn't have diabetes tell me about diabetes. Like, there's a lot of reasons not to listen to me. Like, I get all of them. Overwhelmingly, it works for people, you know, who vibe well with me. And so, you know, we just try to keep making it. I'm just telling you that as a person who does not see themselves as a content creator, but obviously is, the system that exists to get what I make to you, it could not possibly be fighting me more if it tried. And I mean on Facebook, I mean on social media, I mean in the podcast apps. Apple has made changes to their algorithm over the last 2 years, or the way YouTube will like demonetize somebody for saying a word they shouldn't say, or, you know, in truthfulness, and this has nothing to do with my feelings about COVID, but the way Facebook over the last couple of years has, you know, lorded over us and made sure that nobody's mentioned COVID, or nobody's like and if they do, then like their posts are ripped away, and then it turns the algorithm towards your group. And if the algorithm decides your group is full of whatever, it'll just shut it off, and there's no recourse. Like, so we've spent years just moderating people being like, don't say that, don't say that, don't, like, not that I give a shit if you talk about it, but if you say that, then this space isn't going to be here for other people. Like, that is in the way.
Even Venmo is doing it. My friend got me, this is a joke for another friend, got me a crocheted butt plug. It's not for real life. It's just a haha, like, it says, let me tell you what it says, because you're going to think, what the hell is this girl talking about?
No. I'm
feeling a bit uptight or just down in the dumps. Perhaps you've had to deal with a lot of I'm here and I've got your back. When it feels like life is a real pain in the ass, I'm always all in. Like, just a haha, right? So I went to send her money for it, and I put the word butt in the thing. Wouldn't let me send it. Wouldn't even let me send the word butt to her.
I got to tell you, I can't believe you're bringing this up, because I have a crochet. No. Okay. I'm being serious. I can't believe you're bringing this up, because I'm going to go to my pictures so that I can get an actual date on this, because I believe it was, 2 days ago. I was in the Walgreens 2 days ago trying to get nasal gel that Isabel told me to buy to squirt my nose to help my nose heal. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm standing there looking for them. I can't find what I'm looking for. So I start going up and down aisles. And no kidding, I ended up taking a picture and sending this to my wife. Hello, Cake, Buzzy Butt, a vibrating toy for backside play. It's a butt plug at Walgreens.
Stop it. Oh my gosh.
It was next to the little sucky. And I don't want to tell you what that does. I'm not kidding. There were like sex toys out on the, I guess I don't care, but I was like, is this how Walgreens is making a living? Like,
we'll censor you online, but hell if we censor you in person.
All I'm saying is that, you know, when you're listening to something that's helping you, just know that I climbed over 17 different digital mountains and avoided 200 people trying to oversaturate the space. 17 other impediments that you wouldn't even know existed. That, by the way, I didn't know existed the first day. I was like, I think I'll make a podcast, tell people how we manage diabetes. So like, it's a job in itself to navigate the system that brings you the content. You could easily say like, oh, well, Scott, just like, you know, put it on Patreon or do this or do that. Like, it's a nice thing to say, but like, you're not going to reach as many people that way. And like, even if you made it free, like, you know, but put it on one of those like more private platforms, which is the answer, by the way. Like, listen, I have a circle group for diabetes, and it's going to take me forever to grow. I think it's got like 1,000 people in it right now. It's a private group that I pay the server space on, but it doesn't have to go through Facebook. But the problem is that everyone's on Facebook. So that's where you want to be. You know, I could send you the podcast other ways besides in podcast apps, but that would severely limit the ability for me to grow it. And then it would just end up being a private little thing for a handful of people, and they'd have to pay for it. And I'd still make a living, but like, then nobody else would get it. And I don't think that's right either. I think that these social media channels, they've taken me and people like me, instead of being a tool that amplifies what we're trying to share with people, we become the thing that they sell so that they can make ad money. I'm not a podcast. I'm not a YouTube channel. I'm not whatever you end up being. I'm just content to draw on your eyes, and then they want to keep you there so they can feed you ads. Right. And so that's the game. And what I do is I take that crocheted plug in exchange for hopefully reaching some people, but not nearly the amount of people that we could if it was a more unfettered system, I guess.
I don't know if it's ever crossed your mind, but if you do make content for something like TikTok, you could post videos of you recording this, just a snippet, and be like, watch Chelsea coming up on blah, 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 and have your little...
It doesn't work, Chelsea. First of all, I am not hot enough. My clavicles are not going to pull that off. And the other thing is I can't talk while I'm bouncing my... I've tried, and it's just that doesn't work. But the real thing is I'm old. I'm not right for TikTok. And TikTok's not right for actual dissemination of information. It's like something that grabs your eye and you go, oh my God, that's amazing. And then it's over. Or wow, that was fun. And then it's over. Oh my God, did that guy just fall off a mountain? Nobody goes, oh my God, did that guy just fall off a mountain? I would now like to hear 35 minutes about mountains. So even if you collect eyes on Instagram Reels or TikTok or something like that, it doesn't actually translate into anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what
That's sad. I mean, they try to tell you that it does. That's why I say it, because, other people that medical talk is a thing. It's become a thing that people go searching for information. I watched this one. This is how I got Derek into being okay with pods and Dexcoms on his leg, is that I showed him somebody else doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. And listen, I might take the short sips and hammer them down to 60 seconds, but I mean, I don't know what I'm going to tell you in 60 seconds. It's really going to change your life that much. You'd have to hear that and then go find the podcast. And I think that what ends up happening is you're talking to people who are not podcast people.
And then they don't go any further. So.
Yeah, they're not going to go any further. And then they're just going to hear me say, did your blood sugar go up really high? You should crush it and catch it. And then not have any of the salient details about that, and then go do something dangerous because they don't understand what they're doing. So I don't want to be part of that, and I don't want to be part of the outrage culture just to get eyes, because there are people trying to do that for diabetes. It doesn't work for them either.
Right.
Outrage is outrage. It's not diabetes. It's just I had a company tell me one time, do you see this Instagram, diabetes Instagram influencer? They're huge. And I went and looked, and it was a girl in a bikini. And I was like, she's not a diabetes influencer. I mean, she's influencing something, but it's not diabetes. And God bless her. She looks awesome in that bikini. But I don't know what that's got to do with you understanding when to use your glucagon. You know what I mean? Right. Yeah. So I think the platforms tell you that so that you'll go make them content so they can sell people their ads, not because they think you're going to flourish in that situation.
Right.
I think that's the lie they tell you. Anyway,
I will keep that in the back of my brain when I'm thinking about it, because with my business, I have to think about all the angles too.
Good luck. And good luck to anybody who wants to try it. But what I'm going to tell you really is I have I have a couple of things on my side, but one of them that's the most important is I have something called Second Mover. So there were, prior to my podcast, 2 or 3 people doing blog talk radio shows about diabetes.
Oh.
It was before the technology really existed, so that I sound nice and clean to you right now, right? And so people would literally pick up their home phone and call each other on a number, and the blog talk system would record that. And then it was available at a link, so you could go to a web page and listen to it. It sounded okay. And it was often run by people who I think are awesome, but they were bloggers. They weren't really audio slick. So it wasn't interesting to listen to. You know what I mean? It was very boring. But I had been on a number of them, and those people would report back to me wow, people listen to yours way more than the other ones. And I was like, oh, okay. And then one day, years later, I was like, I think I'm going to make a podcast about diabetes. And I just happened to be first. So most people would call that first mover. You got there first. So you kind of you fill the space. But I honestly think of it as second, because those blog talk radio shows were before me. Fair's fair. And I actually think the ADA has had a podcast about diabetes longer than me. But in fairness to them, I think they just celebrated 1 million downloads last year, after a decade or more. And I get a lot more than that.
Yeah.
So I wasn't first, but by being second and skipping over the bad technology and coming in when technology was better for it, when the distribution services were better, I was there basically first, but without all the mistakes that everybody made before. And so, like, in fairness to everyone else who's tried and failed, like, since then, I've absorbed the space. For that principle of first mover says that basically what happens is, like, you launch a business selling whatever, or you make a reptile YouTube channel or whatever you end up doing, all the eyes go to you and there's no eyes left for anybody else. So even if someone comes in next and their product's better or their podcast is better or their content is better, no one's ever going to see it. So I also try to stay aware of that and not rest on my laurels and continue to innovate so that I'm not just the old guy who's got the eyes because I got here first. You know what I mean?
I'm going to be so controversial and I'm going to say it's just like with MLMs, but we don't have to talk about that.
Wait, it's like with what?
MLMs, multi-level marketing.
What is
that? If you're one of the first ones to join one of those,
it's a pyramid scheme. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to say that. Like, I used to sell that stuff, so I won't say scheme. But if you're not first, then you're last. You're not going to be up there.
Yeah, it's cryptocurrency. It's like, hey, I'm going to sell you this thing. You give me all your money. Now you go sell this. Now we'll try to sell more.
Yeah.
Oops, we didn't sell anymore. I got all your money.
Right.
But it's a similar idea. It's for a, not for a nefarious reason. I just, dumb luck, decided to do it, had enough experience that I was like, oh, it's a good idea to talk to people this way, but I think the way they're doing it right now doesn't work. I'll do it my way. And so I did it my way. My way seemed to be popular. Also, not for nothing, Chelsea, I have a nice deep voice. Doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
And I'm also like, I'm a confident speaker. I don't know everything, but the things I know, I'm willing to be like, do the like, oh, well, I mean, you could try to pre-bolus, but like, you want to be careful because like, it's possible, like, don't pre-bolus pizza. Like there used to be all these blogs and there's people who knew what they were talking about. And I've said this a thousand times, but like, you can't write a paragraph about why it's scary to pre-bolus and then spend 2 sentences telling me to do it. You've already talked me out of doing it before you told me I should try it. And like, so they spent so much time covering their ass that nobody could take them seriously in a lot of those blogs. I know I'm mixing up stories at this point. I'm all over the place. But anyway, I'm going to let you go. You've given me way more of your time than you anticipated. So
I do have a question.
Oh, please.
Am I allowed to share a photo that I was doing a blog with you today? Or is that a no, thank you, not until it's posted?
Oh, no, you can do that. I don't care. That's awesome.
All
Yeah.
right, cool.
Yeah, please. Like, do it.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much for this opportunity and for letting me ramble when I did.
Chelsea.
It's been so much fun.
Yeah, I just talked for a half an hour, so you're very kind, but thank you very much. I appreciate it too. Hold on 1 second. Arden has been getting her diabetes supplies from US Med for 3 years. You can as well. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. My thanks to US Med for sponsoring this episode and for being longtime sponsors of the Juicebox Podcast. There are links in the show notes and links at juiceboxpodcast.com to US Med and all of the sponsors. The episode you just enjoyed was sponsored by the twiist AID system powered by Tide Pool. If you want a commercially available insulin pump with twiist lube that offers unmatched personalization and precision for peace of mind, you want twiist. twiist.com/juicebox. Are you tired of getting a rash from your CGM adhesive? Give the Eversense 365 a try. Eversense CGM.com/juicebox. Beautiful silicone that they use. It changes every day. It keeps it fresh. Not only that, you only have to change the sensor once a year. So, I mean, that's better. Okay, well, here we are at the end of the episode. You're still with me? Thank you. I really do appreciate that. What else could you do for me? Why don't you tell a friend about the show or leave a 5-star review? Maybe you could make sure you're following or subscribed in your podcast app. Go to YouTube and follow me, or Instagram, TikTok. Oh gosh, here's one. Make sure you're following the podcast in the private Facebook group as well as the public Facebook page. You don't want to miss, please. Do you not know about the private group? You have to join the private group. As of this recording, it has 51,000 members in it. They're active. talking about diabetes, whatever you need to know, there's a conversation happening in there right now. And I'm there all the time. Tag me. I'll say hi. If you or a loved one is newly diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and you're seeking a clear, practical perspective, check out the Bold Beginnings series on the Juicebox Podcast. It's hosted by myself and Jenny Smith, an experienced diabetes educator with over 35 years of personal insight into type 1. Our series cuts through the medical jargon and delivers straightforward answers to your most pressing questions. You'll gain insight from real patients and caregivers and find practical advice to help you confidently navigate life with type 1. You can start your journey informed and empowered with the Juicebox Podcast. The Bold Beginnings series and all of the collections in the Juicebox Podcast are available in your audio app and at juiceboxpodcast.com in the menu. The episode you just heard was professionally edited by Wrong Way Recording. wrongwayrecording.com.